got three people who are going to be talking about various different experiences that they've had. We're going to start with Vicky, who's a community organiser from Ashington. And Vicky has been instrumental in, I suppose, putting together the group in Ashington, but also managing events and trying to demonstrate the relevance of the project to people within Ashington, mainly with good success and having to deal with the various different complications that academic language has thrown up. But I suppose Vicky comes from a non-academic background and has got into politics. Like, it is basically political, the stuff that you're doing through community organising, towards the end of your 20s and things. So it's a kind of, when you started your community organising, I got in touch with you then, and so it's kind of, this has been running alongside your experience of politics, I guess, community organising, though you wouldn't regard it as politics, but it is.
Yeah,
basically.
It's the nice side of politics, where are we on the ground with people who it affects most, I think.
Yeah. So I think Vicky's going to talk about a range of different things. You've obviously been to Australia, you've been to Cork, a couple of days in Cork, now here, and I think there are a range of things which fit with your personal biography. So I guess, as a starting point, how would you outline your family?
Ooh, where do I start?
Yeah.
I call it a modern family. Matt calls it a dysfunctional family. My parents split up when I was 16. I've lived in and around, well, I've lived in Ashington for the past 3 years, but I've lived in and around the northeast all my life. Moving from one place to the next due to precarious circumstances, I suppose. The first family home I was in was in the 80s when the first recession hit, and that was the first move in my childhood. And we'll move from space to space for different reasons. My brother, I have 2 brothers, or had 2 brothers. The middle brother, he was always up to no good and in trouble. So to fix that, my mum and dad decided to move us right out into the sticks. So we moved from Newcastle to Netherwhitton, which was, there's nothing in there, you know. There's a post office, but it is literally somebody's lobby, you know. There's you go into someone's house, knock on the front door, they open it, and the door into the living room is the post office counter. It's that sort of space. There's a phone box as well. That's about it. So yeah, moving from schools as well, somewhere where I was at St Thomas More's, a high school in Newcastle, which had over 300 kids in my year group. There was big tech lab computers, we all had computers to work at, that side of things. And then going from a high school to a 3-tier system in Northumberland, it felt like I was getting put down a year to middle school, where there was 7 children in my year. There was 1 computer, which was the secretaries. It felt like a bit of a backward step, and I didn't enjoy it very much at all. So school wasn't really my cup of tea. I don't think. I didn't feel like I fitted in. It was easy enough to make friends, but friendship wasn't something I saw as a long-term thing, because I'd moved about. It was you fitted in and you adjusted yourself and your personality to fit in with these people and get on the best you could until your next move. But I think it made my family closer. So I was very close to my brothers because we'd moved to this new area. We could go out and explore, have fun, take the mick out with the kids that were already there, get up to all sorts of mischief. We were very, very close and still are. We've lost Dominic. He passed away when I was 16. But I think that's made us even closer to my older brother. As I say, about closeness, we had the same friend groups and that side of things, that we were in, like, moved to schools together, so kind of stuck together throughout the education system. And with Dominic being at little bit of a rogue. He was usually off and over the fence and not learning too much at school, and me and Ben more or less followed him. My mum is absolutely legendary. She'll each situation that comes up, she'll glide through it. You know, there's no surprise, there's no shock, there's no horror. Everything's just dealt with in a smooth manner. It doesn't matter how big the problem is. When I told her I was pregnant at 16, she sat down and says, "Well, what do you want to do about it? What's going to happen now?" When she made it, she's made it so it hasn't affected my life, in which it could have been had a massive downhill impact on my life, but it didn't. My family supported me through thick and thin, and they've bent over backwards and still do to help and make things as smooth as they possibly can, make sure opportunities that are there for me that I can go to. Australia, for instance, that was a phone call to my mum. "Mum, can you babysit?" "No problem." "How long for?" "Just a month." "That's fine." Drop her off. Yeah, nothing seems to bait her. She doesn't batter an eyelid. You know, the little things, everything's taken care of and catered for. And I think it's that reliance on family that's made our unit so strong. And we get on, everybody helps each other out. Kinship networks, which is similar to the Aboriginals in Australia as well. From what I can gather, there's people help people out in whichever way they can when those strong networks are formed. And I think it's the circumstances of precariousness that are behind that. If the rug keeps on getting pulled from under your feet, then you keep hopping to the next thing and the next thing, and it's the people that are the barrier. It's the people that are there that pushing you when you're about to fall and help you. Circumstances, government legislations and things like that are usually the things that are pulling the rug. And for me, and what I do now in community is, I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but it's helping people to help each other in their own circumstances, the people that know, which is why I wanted to get involved in Matt's project. Something about autonomy and being a community or a group of people being able to deal with their own problems rather than having rules and legislations made by an outside force that doesn't necessarily know the ins and outs of a culture, of a community, of a people or a person. I think the best ones to help are the ones in the situation, forming bonds and solidarity, kinship networks. That's the kind of thing that I can see works well in communities and makes them stronger.
So if there's this big thing about mobility, like if people are unemployed in an area, they should move to get poorly paid work elsewhere. What are the costs of doing that if you'd been forced to move to the other end of the country?
Well, I went down to Darlington.
Yeah, it's quite far.
Not too far, but I felt, although I was living with my brother at the time, so the idea behind it was being a single mum, my family, my brother, it wasn't an option for me to get a mortgage on my own. So me and my brother, who is gay, so not necessarily going to have a family in the near future, decided that would do better putting in for a property together and gets me on the housing ladder and him as well, kinship networks working together to find a house, more stability. So we decided Darlington was a good space to be. Ben's also in the RAF, so he was based, well, at the minute down in London. Where was he based when we were there? Leeds he was based when we were there. So he was in and out, and did the paying of the bills and that sort of thing. He sorted the mortgage. and having that stability and family link near was good, but not enough. I had to put Bubbles into nursery to go to work, and Bubbles is the youngest. And not having my mum there to pop over at a drop of a hat to pick up the kids, and to, I suppose my mum's also my best friend. It sounds really soppy, but having that emotional support to talk out problems. Usually Ben was the problem, so I'd have a good chat about Ben. Yeah, having that close wasn't necessarily there. Also, my mum's health isn't the best. She has good days and bad days, but she has lots of problems with arthritis, autoimmune stuff, spondylosis. There's all sorts wrong with her. She does well, but she's a little bit knackered sometimes. And I didn't necessarily feel close enough to her. She had a fall, and that was the last straw for me. At the time I did holistic therapies at college, and I was starting up my own business when I was in Newcastle, but the prospects of having a house, somewhere to live, a bit of stability, I decided it was better to move down to Darlington. Therefore picked up a mainstream job I was working in next. It was very boring, lovely people, but one of those jobs that just doesn't, at the end of the day it's labour, not work, you know. So I decided to just quit my job and move straight back up north when my mum had a fall. So that was that realisation that I needed to be close to my mum, so that I could maintain, I suppose it's like the support network within the family. Although Ben supports the family in a different way, financially and all the sensible stuff, you know, but from a distance, and he's always done that from a distance. When he was 16, my dad took him down to the Forces recruitment office because he'd had a year out messing about with a girl, actually. My dad got a bit sick of him not contributing to the family pot, so he dropped him off at the recruitment office and says, right, there's the Army, there's the Navy, or there's the RAF. And then he left him there. He says, come home when you decided what you're signing up for. So that was Ben's career sorted. Signed up for the RAF, and he's done very well at it. It was probably, although it sounds so harsh and cruel the way it was done without choice, it really suited him. He's done really well in the forces, and it's given him that background and financial stability to be able to help out the family and to travel and do all the things that he wanted to do anyways. So that links there as well. I'm just dribbling now.
So if you hadn't had that family support, what would your life have been like, do you think?
Without the family support, I suppose I would have had to rely on the state welfare systems, which would have been absolutely awful. And not being able to, I wouldn't be able to do the job I do today. My circumstances would be very different, I think. Yeah, not having that, not being able to have a free babysitter, that sounds really harsh, but without childcare, then I would have been absolutely screwed when it comes to work. You know, no employer would have wanted me, and I wouldn't be able to keep up with 35 hours, although I do often over that now. Don't get paid.
But your mum's been able to support you because she's been supported by the state by virtue of her ill health and everything. So that, I mean, obviously the state's played a central role in enabling her to support you. And so what would so I guess in one sense, although you've always worked, the state's played a supportive role. And I guess is it an example of the state actually encouraging encouraging socially responsible behaviour? Because you are responsible in lots of different, and you contribute to society and all the rest of it. Is that a good investment, you think?
Up to an extent, but I think it's a little bit the other way, because the state hasn't been able to provide my mum a comfortable lifestyle, you know, she really struggles. Like financially, like even though she has money coming in. But I think it's taught me and Ben through bad example how to be good with money. Both me and Ben are quite good with financial stuff. And yeah, we've like, when we were kids, we did the TV man's coming, kids hide behind the sofa, that side of things. And it's something that I never wanted to have to do with my kids, so I've always made sure that the rent's there, the house there, you know, it's secure. The bills are paid, so there's no one knocking on the door asking to take the furniture away. Things that like I've been through in my childhood. Whatever I did, I didn't want that for my kids. So by bad example, my parents have taught me and Ben how to be financially secure. But we also had to make a little bit extra so that we could support mum. So it's like Ben looks after our car and our insurance for that side of things, and I'll top up our bank account when our direct debits are going to cause her to get fines and things like that. So there's that.
Okay. And when you're thinking about this project, you were dealing with people who were facing serious constraints on their resources during a period of austerity and everything. Was there anything that you were expecting was there anything in Australia that resonated with the problems that they were facing in Ashington?
I think yes, but for different reasons. So during like community organising, we'll go out and we'll talk to residents in Ashington about what they love about Ashington, the concerns that they have. We'll ask them about the vision they have for the area, whether they want to set up projects or feel they can set up projects to either tackle some of the concerns or build on the things that they love. And we'll try and support them to either setting up campaigns or projects, things like that. I've lost my thread of conversation now. One of the things that it wasn't lots of people didn't say it, but one of the things that concerned us most was the concerns in Ashington about not having a say. So we'll ask, in with the questions, we'll ask them, do you feel you have a say in the way your area is run? 9 out of 10 people in Ashington will say no. Nobody listens. So who's nobody? Who are you talking about? They'll talk about the council. They feel like they're shouting but nothing's happening, and I think that resonates with over in Australia. You can see that they're there, they're having the discussions, they're talking about what they need to do to move forward, but there's not necessarily that other side of things, listening to what the problems are and looking for ways to fix it, which that's what councils do in a way. So when you ask people in Ashington also, what is it that you've said that hasn't been listened to? There's that, well, it's the council that haven't responded to this. It's like, well, what was the last thing that you said to the council? What was the last complaint, the last idea you put forward, and it kind of dries up. There's not that the conversation goes, oh well, they just wouldn't, you know, if you phone them up, there's always barriers. It's not ideas about what you can do. And I think on the Aboriginal side of things, one of the things that shocked us most was the racism both within the system and in the white Australian side of things. I was talking before we went over there. I was talking about the project to someone that had lived in Australia, and this is, oh, you'll not get them to do anything. It's like, who's them? the Aboriginals, all of them. And the same thing happens in Ashington as well. If people have got problems, they get a group together and they'll be there fighting in the corner, and then you've got the other side of things saying, well, they're not doing anything. They're not getting off the horses and off the dole, they're not doing this, they're not doing that. But I think there are things getting done. There's people talking and doing, and I'm one of the lucky ones. I get to see it. I get to see people setting up the projects and making the little things happen. It's not, it's not, oh, let's stop world hunger tomorrow. It's let's put some veg in a patch and make sure that there's something there for someone who hasn't got anything. So it's those little actions that I get to see every day, which makes me quite happy. And that's happening over in Australia as well. Things are getting done, but there's this stereotypical view of, there is still problems, so no one must have fixed anything, it's that apathy, that word again. It's just thrown about rooms, and it's a shame because it really degrades people, it brings them down, and it makes. One of the other things is when you have a community meeting and you have 5-6 people there, they'll all talk about, there's no one here again. You just disregarding the 5 people who did turn up, they're here, and I doubt a small group of people can't change the world. Indeed, that's the only thing that ever has. There's Nelson, I think.
Okay, so a couple of times you were saying that you were alienated by sort of focus on masculine elements of Northumbrian heritage, like the miners' legacy and stuff. Do you think there's some kind of, can you reflect upon the importance of, women in communities, and the way in which your mother's kind of dragged you through and stuff? Because I suppose that was one of the things that really upset you, that about my dad's film and things like that it was about just miners.
It's all the men.
Right, yeah.
When I was at the Woodhorn, I was chatting to, who was the fella that showed you around? Neil Taylor. I was chatting to him and I was saying, what about the women? Where's the women in this museum? Then it's all men, male organ shape. And he said, they were there. They were on the seams, or on the conveyor belts. I used to pick the coal out there as well, so get up but yeah, at home as well, with Mary will tell you about the men and women's business being separate but equal, and I think that is right in Ashington as well, or from my point of view it certainly is. Mum has always been there, and yeah, fighting to keep the family life balance, things ticking over, and making sure Dad was all right, and Dad did the man thing, went out to work and brought back the bread and butter and that side of things. But I think each part's equal, as it is in Australia. You've got your man's business that went on in the social clubs, and your woman's business that went on at bitch and stitch classes. But I think each part is as important as the other.
So on the back of your experience, can you talk about what you would want to take into future projects?
I think the most important thing, and it sounds like such a little thing, but when the Aboriginals introduce themselves, they'll tell you about the family first, where they come from, and that side of things, and then what they do will come after that for how they make the money for a living. That'll come afterwards. So it's that family first side of things. You don't get that in the UK. It's all your personal information has to stay your own, and you can't share that with the people that you work with in community, because they might take it and hold it against you in some way, which is bizarre. But that, I think the personal information and the getting to know and building relationships, so that people more intimately, if you like. You know the circumstances, you form friendships, not just a client that you work with. It's knowing the background, the history, what makes them tick, and then you can see how you can help them get where they want to be in community, or you know which ways, what the strengths and weaknesses are, so you can build the projects around them, or get them to build the projects around themselves, I should say. So that would be the first thing that I'd bring. But also some of the ideas. Australia, we're visiting in all our elders, and it was mentioned that there was a driving school over there, and I thought, we could really do that in Ashington. We've got, the trains have been off for ages, low employment. There's, statistically, we've got the lowest amount of cars per household. So it would be something that really would make a difference if more of the young people could drive. So I think those ideas. And I think as well, when you're showing people what you have got at home, it opens your eyes to it. Strengthening the things that Mary's been noticing and saying, oh, you know, this is really great. It's good to have that, the nod of approval, if you like. So community hubs, I think Mary likes the idea of, and it's kind of opened my eyes to how good that is, having a space where you've got lots of different projects going on within the same building and them all linked into each other. It comes in handy. So it's kind of like strengthened that idea and sort of thing.
Brilliant. Okay. So any questions for Vicky?
You can ask a bit more about what community activities you've been involved in, working in, and where you think it really works and where you find it doesn't work so well.
So with the Community Organiser, there's all sorts of different projects, because you can, the way we do it is we'll knock on doors and ask people like the questions that I went through, what they love and what they don't love. What we'll also do is we'll ask them if they're interested in hearing more about projects that are coming up and whether they want to volunteer in them. So we've got we'll build up a database of addresses and what that person's interested in as well. So from that we can form groups. So one of the ones that I've been working in is the building that I do work in is a Art Deco building, which was a community hub in Ashington. It was a place that was used for weddings. It's got a ballroom on the top floor. It's a massive, beautiful space. People in Ashington love the building because they've got memories, connections with it. So it's something they're really drawn to. And one of those projects was going through all the listening data that I've gone through, pulling the right people together and saying, do you want to do something? So they formed a Friends of group within it to see the building being used again. It was derelict for, was it 10 years? 10 years? Yeah. Beforehand, or the top two floors were based on the bottom floor. So that kind of thing, they get to, by forming a Friends of group, they're working together to look at how they want to see the building used, and they are the community. It's their building. It's what they want to see in it. And my job's just to stand in the background, stick them together, and help with the ideas that are formed. And they've put on craft fairs and that sort of thing, and see, doing what they want to do. It works because they've got a passion for it. The project belongs to them, so it's not a business from outside going, oh, we'll use this building to create a swimming pool and no one's going to use it because they're not necessarily swimmers, you know. It's the ideas are there before the function.
Anything else?
I was just wondering, Do you have any strategies to try to overcome that apathy, or are those people just not, do they just not get involved?
Lots of people don't get involved, and I think that's all right as well. When you knock on someone's door, the first thing you get is, you know, are you a Jehovah's Witness? Do I need to pay you for anything? And I think it's quite shocking when you're there just saying, no, I just want to hear what you think of the area and whether you want to get involved in the community. And that invite into community is such a massive thing. It's a massive incentive in itself because people feel away from it. So having that, it's almost like they've got to ask for permission to put something on for people in their area, which, why is that? Why would you feel that way in the first place? But having that invite to talk about it and get things done and to meet other people who feel the same, I think is a massive thing when you put people in a group who have got the same. For instance, the schools went over from a 3-tier to a 2-tier system in Ashington. It's just happening now, but the plans for it were revealed and the parents weren't too happy. So we've gone, it's one the school that Bubbles goes to as well, so we've gone to, like, I used to go in the school ground and see all the parents dotted about, everyone not wanting to make eye contact, you know, eyes down until your kid comes out. But since the plans became apparent and talking to people and getting them in a group and sitting down and having cups of tea together, they're all out in the school gate, collecting the kids at the school gate and having a good old rant, you know, what's going on, have you seen this new teacher? And that's there as well, so it's a nice thing to see. But I think, yeah, just the being out and being involved and aware and kind of asking people, that's incentive enough. But lots of people do just shut the door and say, go away, don't want anything to do with you, which is fine as well, because that's how we want to be. You know.
Okay, last question.
Can I ask, it's following on from that, and I'm one of the people who says, are you from the Jehovah's Witnesses? I'm looking for your foot in the door, so let's be clear about that. But what percentage of people do you think just, aren't interested, and that's their privilege, that if they don't want to be interested, they don't have to be. And what percentage of people, and I ask this as somebody who's worked in education for more years than I'll admit to what extent is it just that, for whatever reason, people in Britain seem to me anyway just to lack confidence in themselves, and you often hear things like, oh well, that's not really for the likes of me to do. And I just wonder, do you have any sense of what the split is? Because if people just think, well, I don't want to do it, fine. But if they think, no, that you have to be a better kind of person, that's not fine.
It depends on the individual. You know, there's so many different reasons why people don't want to get involved. So, for instance, you've got the older generation, which is quite shocking to me because my grandma was always involved with stuff, sticking her beak in where it wasn't belonging. But you some of the older people will say, oh, do you know, I've had my time. I'll leave it to the young ones now to sort out. It's their future.
Right.
So that kind of made me think, oh, hang on a minute. Mm-hmm. So I'd often ask on, so what legacy would you like to leave? What are you going to leave before you go? If your time's up, you haven't got long to.
Well, that cheered them up.
But I think it's that. Yeah, I think it's understanding that people often do things in community without realising it. So networks, and they're already doing little things, but they don't necessarily link it to being involved in a community project. So there's that side of things. But percentages-wise, Ashington's been a really hard area to crack, and most of that is mistrust. But then you'll get, when I first started doing the job, you'll get people slamming the doors in the face, oh, nothing, it's not for me, stay away. But they'll often come back and say, oh, you were that one, weren't you? And are you involved in this project? So that they'll come back round to you. Yeah. It's interesting.
Brilliant. Well, I think time time's upon us. So fantastic, thanks.